You know, people say every great revenge story starts with a single act of betrayal. In my case, it started with an overpriced bottle of Chardonnay, a girls' night, in our kitchen, and my wife's best friend, let's call her Tiffany, who had the moral compass of a raccoon digging through a trash can. Tiffany was the type of person who read one self-help book about finding yourself and decided it gave her a PhD in destroying perfectly functioning families. She sat there swirling her wine like a villain in a soap opera, telling my wife, "Girl, if you're not happy, you need to create your own happiness. Life's too short to be loyal to someone who just exists." The way she said exists, you'd think I was some moldy couch taking up space in her living room. Now, I didn't hear this in real time. Oh no, I got the replay later, courtesy of my wife's habit of recording voice notes for her private journal. One spoiler, nothing's private when you sync your phone to the family laptop. Listening to them was like binge-watching a reality show where I was the clueless husband everyone on set was plotting against. Tiffany was basically the producer, feeding her lines, setting up the drama. And my wife? She played along, laughing that fake laugh she only uses when she's talking to people she's trying to impress or seduce. Here's the thing. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it wasn't toxic love either. Sure, we had our arguments. She hated how I folded laundry wrong. I hated how she treated Amazon Prime like a personal assistant. Normal stuff. But according to Tiffany, this was a soul-crushing dynamic, and my wife needed to break free before she ended up like those sad women in Hallmark movies who knit scarves for their cats. And my wife ate it up. In hindsight, I should have seen the signs. The sudden obsession with going to yoga on Thursday nights, which somehow always involved coming home smelling like men's cologne that definitely wasn't mine. The dramatic hair change, blonde highlights because apparently blondes have more fun, which in her case meant more cheating. And the way she started quoting self-empowerment TikToks about choosing yourself. Yeah, nothing says self-empowerment like destroying your own family while your best friend cheers from the sidelines like it's the Super Bowl. But here's the twist most people don't expect. I knew about it before it actually happened. Call it husband intuition. Call it the ghost of every betrayed man whispering in my ear. I saw the way she clutched her phone like it was a winning lottery ticket. I saw the late-night work emails that mysteriously required full makeup and a dress you wouldn't even wear to a funeral unless you were trying to seduce the priest. And I saw Tiffany's smug little Instagram stories about supporting my girl while she makes bold moves. So I did what any man raised on conspiracy documentaries and bad 90s thrillers would do. I started my own secret investigation. Not the kind where you sit in your car with binoculars like some creep from a true crime podcast. No, mine was more elegant. I installed a silent screen recorder on her laptop. I synced her private photo album to the cloud. And I may or may not have paid an old college buddy, now a PI who owes me money, to follow her on one of her yoga nights. What I discovered wasn't just cheating. It was an entire operation. She had code names in her messages, like she was part of a spy ring. She referred to the guy as Project Freedom, which is hilarious because I've seen the guy. And trust me, freedom is not what comes to mind. He looked like if a midlife crisis had a face, spray tan, too much cologne, and a car so loud it probably compensates for his personality. But here's where it gets almost funny. She was bad at it. Like really bad. I watched her accidentally text me instead of him once, something about last night being amazing, followed by a winky face. When I asked her about it, she panicked and said it was meant for Tiffany, because we were talking about that new restaurant. Yeah, the new restaurant called Your Bedroom at 2 a.m. By this point, I had enough evidence to end the marriage right there. But ending it right there would have been boring. No climax, no drama, no perfect setup for my own counterstrike. And I wasn't just looking for a divorce. I wanted poetic justice. The kind of revenge that doesn't just end her little cheating adventure, but turns it inside out. Leaves her standing in the wreckage wondering what just happened. So instead of confronting her, I smiled more. I brought her flowers. I made dinner. I played the role of the oblivious husband so perfectly, I could have won an Oscar. Because the key to revenge, real revenge, is patience. Let them think they're winning. Let them get comfortable. Let them believe the betrayal is invisible. She had no idea that while she was plotting her perfect escape, I was already 5 moves ahead. In her mind, she was going to walk away with half the assets, a fresh start with Mr. Project Freedom, and maybe a triumphant Instagram post about choosing love. In my mind, I was going to dismantle her plan, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the look on her face when she realized she'd been outplayed. And that's exactly where part 2 begins. Because if she thought the cheating was the betrayal, she hadn't seen what betrayal really looked like. I didn't blow it up that night. Not yet. I let the moment hang there, like a cliff edge you don't know you're standing on until the gravel gives. Picture this, a quiet Friday in suburbia. The kind of evening where the air smells like lawn sprinklers and somebody down the block is over-salting ribs on a Weber. She breezes in from yoga, hair perfect, laugh too bright, a smear of lipstick daring me to ask questions I pretend I don't have. And I do what any reasonable American man would do when his gut is screaming betrayal. I slice a Costco rotisserie chicken, pour a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and say, "How was class?" She says, "Transformative," which is a funny word for cheating. I nod and let the silence do push-ups. But here's the part that's delicious in a cruel way. The next scene of this story actually happens 2 weeks later, in a parking lot behind a strip mall where a CrossFit gym, a vape shop, and a tax preparer share a single sad tree. That's where I watch my wife in the blue dress I bought her for our anniversary kiss, Mr. Project Freedom, like he's oxygen and she's been held underwater. I don't make a sound. I just click a button. The camera, hidden in my car's dash, captures the kiss, the hands, the double check for witnesses, amateurs, the way she laughs as he calls her dangerous. They don't know danger. Not yet. Afterward, she texts Tiffany, "Stage 1 is working." And Tiffany, ever the spiritual pyromaniac, replies with a confetti emoji and, "Proud of you, Queen. Freedom is a choice." Freedom is a choice, yes. So is evidence. The thing about America is everybody's got a camera now. Ring doorbells, traffic cams, 1,000 little eyes that never sleep. You can't even sneeze without an algorithm suggesting tissues. Meanwhile, Tiffany's coaching my wife like a sideline pundit. The plan is so textbook it should come with a syllabus. Provoke fights, document emotional neglect, start a paper trail with a therapist who believes any sentence containing the word unfulfilled, then push for a fair separation, where fair means I get the house, half your retirement, and the dog you trained. It would be funny if it wasn't about my family. It would be tragic if I wasn't already writing the 3rd act. Do I sound calm? That's because revenge is a waiting game, and patience is a weapon. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the strip mall kiss and the soft click of a camera that doesn't blink. I go home and make pasta. She says she's starving. "Yoga," she sighs, and I nearly applaud. Instead, I twirl fettuccine and ask about her day, and she smiles the way people smile when they think they're smarter than gravity. Later that night, she journals, whispering into her phone like a late-night radio host on a station only liars can hear. She says, "I deserve love," in the tone of someone asking permission from a mirror. Toxic love always dresses itself up as a revolution. I let her have the stage. The following week is a study in choreography. She floats, I anchor. She texts, I archive. She tells Tiffany she's almost ready, and Tiffany, bless her chaotic heart, sends a bullet list titled Exit Strategy, like we're planning a heist at Target. Step 1. Move emergency cash into a separate account. Step 2. Get a P.O. box. Step 3. Consult a discreet attorney named Cliff who wears cowboy boots and thinks prenups are vibes. Step 4. Document his coldness. Coldness. I'm in the kitchen packing her favorite lunch. Turkey sandwiches with too much mayo, cut diagonally the way she likes. A little note that says, "Proud of you today." Cold as ice. On Wednesday, I trail them once, purely to measure the radius of their stupidity. He takes her to a hotel that advertises European-style breakfast and a lobby fountain with a dolphin statue nursing a cracked fin. She looks happy, in a way that hurts because it used to be me in that picture. I film them holding hands like teenagers who think malls are sacred. The footage is steady. My breathing isn't. On Thursday, Tiffany wades deeper into thespian waters. She FaceTimes from her car, sunglasses on, and says my wife needs to initiate a controlled rupture. I think about how Americans will turn anything into a startup pitch. Love, grief, marriage, a controlled rupture. That night, my wife tries to pick a fight over the laundry again, accusing me of sabotaging her delicates like I'm in a cold war with her silk. I apologize, offer to buy a new set, and laugh softly at the right moment, which infuriates her because rage needs fuel. She storms off to the guest room. I tuck in the dog. Friday is therapy day, the kind of therapy that reads from a checklist. Do you feel unseen? Do you feel trapped? Do you feel like motherhood was a con? She answers yes to all three even though we don't have kids, which would be a funny detail if it weren't written into her affidavit draft. Yes, there's a draft. Cliff Vibes emailed a template that still had another woman's name in it. Dear Ashley. After therapy, she texts Tiffany. He's being weirdly nice like he knows and is hiding it. Tiffany writes, fear response. Keep pushing. My phone pings with the screenshot because nothing bonds women like group chats and nothing saves men like their ability to guess the backup iCloud password their wife set as the name of her first horse. Betrayal becomes boring when you can predict the beats. So I start injecting chaos. Not obvious chaos, calibrated chaos. I suggest a spontaneous weekend drive up the coast. Big Sur, sunsets. The whole Americana brochure. She freezes. Lovers hate road trips that don't come with alibis. She says she promised Tiffany a spiritual retreat Saturday. I ask where. She says Topanga, which is hilarious because Tiffany thinks Topanga is a character from Boy Meets World. I smile and say, take pictures. She does. Of a brunch. With mimosas. And Mr. Project Freedom's hand reflected in the toaster behind the bar. Later that night, alcohol makes people honest, and carelessness makes them generous. She falls asleep with her phone unlocked. I watch. Not from malice, but from clarity. The thread is all there. A fantasy of a clean break. A white-walled condo with eucalyptus candles. A man who calls her wild. A lawyer who calls me leverage. And a best friend who wants a front-row seat to the bonfire. Somewhere between the screenshots and the quiet, I remember the first time she cried in my arms after her dad's funeral. The way she held the back of my neck like I was the only railing left. That's the thing about cheating. It isn't just bodies. It's the demolition of shared history. It's watching a museum burn. By Sunday, the blueprint is clear. They want to orchestrate a scene, a shouted argument, her tears, a neighbor as witness, the kind of staged explosion that turns into a judge's raised eyebrow. Picture Tiffany cooing the music, Cliff doing jazz hands with the paperwork, my wife announcing, "I can't live like this," while Project Freedom idles around the corner in a car that sounds like a leaf blower with dreams. But the universe, God, fate, Costco, call it what you want, loves a plot twist. The neighbor with the witness role? She's on the HOA board and hates loud cars more than she hates crabgrass. She also has a Ring camera pointed at our driveway like it's the border of two warring nations. When Sunday evening's rehearsal turns sloppy and my wife fake sobs too loudly on the porch, the HOA text thread lights up. "Everything okay? Keep it down." Is that the orange Camaro again? Suburbia doesn't miss a beat. I say nothing. I cook again. I plate salmon with lemon like a man auditioning for forgiveness I don't want. She stabs at it, plays with her fork, hoping I'll explode so she can cry emotional abuse into a phone mic. I don't explode. I clear the plates. I water the lawn. I pet the dog until his eyes roll back in bliss. And when she finally hisses, "Why aren't you saying anything?" I look at her like we're strangers on a plane and say, "Because one of us should be calm while the other sets our life on fire." Her face does something complicated. Then she disappears into the guest room to text Tiffany, who replies with a meme about men not handling strong women. If this is strength, America's in trouble. So that's how the betrayal unfolds, not as a thunderclap, but as a weather pattern. Drip by drip. Lie by lie. A conspiracy so small it only feels big because it's happening to you. And if you're wondering why I let it breathe, it's because revenge needs oxygen. Plans grow lush in the dark. Evidence ripens when nobody's shaking the tree. She thinks the perfect plan is almost ready. I think the orchard is heavy with fruit. Tomorrow, we both pick. Only one of us keeps the harvest. Revenge, if done right, is slow cooked. Not microwaved in a burst of anger, but simmered over low heat until the aroma drifts into every corner of their perfect little scheme. And in my case, the kitchen was ready. The ingredients? A vault of screenshots, a few choice videos, a whisper of legal advice from a lawyer whose handshake feels like a binding contract, and one neighbor who doesn't realize she's about to be my star witness. First, the paper trail. If they wanted to paint me as the neglectful husband, I was going to flip the script so hard they'd get whiplash. Every day I documented affection like I was writing a Hallmark movie. I cooked dinners, left notes, took her on spontaneous coffee runs, bought flowers just because. All of it time-stamped, photographed, and filed under Exhibit A, the happy marriage she's about to torch. You'd think I was auditioning for Husband of the Year. Meanwhile, I was also tucking away the receipts for her little Topanga brunches, yoga retreats, and suspicious hotel stays. Because if this was going to court, I wanted the jury's jaw on the floor almost before my opening statement. Then came the asset lockdown. I'd grown up in America, where they teach you early that love might be blind, but property law sees everything. I moved half my liquid savings into a trust she couldn't touch without starting a small war. I rerouted my paycheck to a new account, one with no joint access. Even the dog's vet bills went on my personal card, because I wasn't going to let Mr. Project Freedom get visitation rights over my Labrador. Of course, all of this had to look casual. You can't tip your hand in a game like this. So I invented a fake tax planning phase, told her my accountant wanted me to try a new fiscal structure before the end of the year. She nodded, too busy texting Tiffany about stage 2 to notice she was walking into a legal ambush. Now, about Cliff, her cowboy boot-wearing, prenup-hating lawyer. Poor Cliff didn't know I'd already had lunch with his ex-wife, who just so happens to be a paralegal at the firm that's about to eat him alive in court. Over steak and iced tea, she told me everything I needed, his habits, his blind spots, even the fact that he still uses the same 3 password variations for his email. Don't worry, I didn't hack him. But I did make sure my attorney knew exactly how to push his buttons until he melted in front of a judge. And the more they schemed, the more I played the oblivious fool. I let her pick the weekend she'd have the talk about separation. I even offered to help her pack for her wellness retreat, knowing full well she'd be meeting Mr. Camaro for a getaway in Palm Springs. Before she left, I slipped a tiny GPS tracker into her designer tote bag, the one I bought her last Christmas, which now doubled as Exhibit B in the great betrayal case of the century. And then came the final setup, the one move that would turn her perfect plan inside out. I arranged a charity dinner at our house for Sunday night, the exact day she was planning her dramatic exit. I invited neighbors, a couple of mutual friends, and, oh yes, Tiffany. Told them all it was to celebrate love and friendship. My wife, thinking she'd be in Palm Springs, laughed it off and said she couldn't make it. I just smiled. See, Sunday morning, with the help of my PI buddy, I had an entire photo spread delivered to my inbox. Her and Mr. Project Freedom in full romantic glory, right down to the matching robes at the resort spa. Time-stamped, geotagged, high resolution enough to make a billboard. And here's where the universe really started auditioning for a role in my revenge film. One of the spa attendants at the resort turned out to be my cousin's college roommate. She was more than happy to write a sworn statement about the married woman who spent 2 days ordering champagne to room 307 with a man who signed for everything as cash. That night, I printed everything, bound it in a neat little folder with the title, The Perfect Plan, in gold letters on the cover. And when she rolled back into town, hair tousled, skin sun-kissed, and ready to deliver her "This Isn't Working" monologue, she walked into a living room full of guests. Tiffany was there, smiling like a cat at a bird feeder. The neighbors, drinks in hand. Even the HOA lady. I gave a short speech about gratitude and honesty in marriage. Then I handed my wife the folder and told her to read the first page. Her hands shook. She flipped the page, saw the photos, the texts, the receipts, the spa witness statement. Tiffany's smirk faltered. Mr. Camaro's face stared up from glossy paper like the mugshot of a man who just realized he's been playing in the wrong league. The room went silent, except for the sound of the ice machine in the kitchen. I didn't say a word about divorce that night. I didn't have to. By the time she looked up from the folder, the battle was already over. She just didn't know yet how badly she'd lost. Because in America, the sweetest revenge isn't yelling. It's smiling while the other person realizes every move they made was exactly the one you wanted them to make. You'd think the fallout would be explosive, a screaming match, plates flying, neighbors peeking through blinds like it's an episode of Desperate Housewives. But no, this wasn't going to be some messy, screaming free-for-all. No, this was going to be a controlled demolition. Think Vegas casino implosion. 1 minute it's standing tall, the next it's a cloud of dust where the building used to be. That night, after the charity dinner, my wife didn't say much. She went pale, the kind of pale you only see when someone realizes the script they've been rehearsing for weeks has just been rewritten by someone else. Me. Tiffany tried to crack a joke to break the tension, something about misunderstandings and creative photo angles, but it landed like a lead balloon. The HOA lady excused herself first, muttering something about needing to check the bylaws. Neighbors followed, and Tiffany, sensing the air turning radioactive, hugged my wife and hissed, "Don't say anything. Not now." Oh, but now was exactly the time. The next morning, my lawyer filed everything. Every timestamp, every screenshot, every receipt. The spa statement was pure gold. In court, Cliff, the cowboy boot vibes lawyer, looked like someone had replaced his morning coffee with a subpoena smoothie. He tried to argue invasion of privacy, but the judge, God bless her, cut him off with, "If your client wanted privacy, she could have started by not committing adultery in front of 3 security cameras." From there, it was a bloodbath. I walked away with the house, my retirement untouched, full custody of the dog, and an ironclad clause that she couldn't claim alimony. She got her clothes, her car, and the lingering taste of a plan that blew up in her face. Mr. Project Freedom? Oh, he bailed the minute the court documents hit public record. Apparently, dangerous loses its charm when it comes with a line item labeled perjury risk. Tiffany tried to rally her, posting vague Instagram quotes about strong women rebuilding. The comments section ate her alive. Screenshots of her texts coaching my wife through the betrayal had, somehow, found their way online. Suddenly, she wasn't a feminist hero. She was a home-wrecking sidekick with a wine problem. And my wife? She moved into a furnished apartment downtown, the kind with beige walls and a view of the parking lot. I heard she bought eucalyptus candles, probably trying to recreate the spa vibe she thought was the start of her new life. Except now, every whiff of eucalyptus must smell like the moment she opened that gold-lettered folder in front of a dozen people who used to believe in her. Here's the thing about betrayal. People think it's a storm. Loud, chaotic, destructive. But real betrayal? It's the quiet after. The echo. The way you look at a photo from 5 years ago and can't recognize the person next to you. As for me, I didn't gloat. Not publicly. I smiled. I shook hands. I thanked my lawyer. I took the dog for long walks in the neighborhood, nodding at neighbors who now waved a little longer than before. I learned to make my own peace, the kind that doesn't come from winning a fight, but from knowing you never lost control in the first place. Some nights, I'd sit on the porch with a beer, listening to the crickets and the faint hum of someone's TV. I'd think about how close she came to taking everything, how close I came to letting her, and then I'd think about that charity dinner, her face frozen in shock, Tiffany's smirk dissolving, the whole room holding its breath, and I'd know I'd played it exactly right. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't about rage. It's about precision. It's about letting them dig their own hole and then casually handing them the shovel. And the best part? They never see you coming. So when people ask how my marriage ended, I just smile and say, she had a perfect plan. I had a better one. Then I take another sip of beer and let them wonder. Fade out. Roll credits.